Hi,
Hey, Theo, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. So happy to connect. How's it going?
Hmm. Oh, it's going. Just hanging in there.
Great, awesome. Well, thank you so much to join our live today. For whoever that is in the group, welcome to our live today. My name is Shalyn Lee from Nannocare, and here today we have Dior Vargas, and I met her on an online networking group, and I'm so happy to have her here today with us. Dio, let's start with telling everybody a little bit about yourself and the BIPOC project that you're working on.
Yeah, so I'm Dior Vargas, and I'm a native New Yorker, so I live in New York City. And I started the People of Color Mental Illness Photo Project back in the fall of 2014. And basically, it was in response to the lack of diversity in media representation of mental illness. So back in 2014, I was trying to see what my mental health advocacy would look like. I had been doing advocacy for years, but decided I wanted to focus on mental health. And so through that, I was connecting with a lot of people in the field and also doing a lot of research, volunteering. And so through my experience doing research, when I Googled images with the words such as mental health, mental illness, depression, anxiety, words like that, noticed that what came up in the Google image search wasn't really diverse or representative of communities. And they also just looked really depressing. A lot of them were in black and white, and I just felt like it wasn't representative of everyone's experience. And so I decided that I was going to see what I could do in order to respond to that, and also kind of the way that people think about mental health. So I decided to ask people to share photos of themselves holding signs. I thought that would be the easiest thing for people to do is to share photos of themselves holding a sign. And basically, it could say whatever they'd like. And it was specifically for communities of color because, and more so Black, Indigenous communities of color. So, because a lot of it just wasn't showing people that looked like me, my community, and other people of color. So I asked them to write whatever they wanted to on that piece of paper, expressing how their race or ethnicity has impacted how they experience mental health, how they talk about it in their family, how they access care. So a bunch of different things. And I also didn't require people to have an official diagnosis because a lot of us, it takes a lot to go to the doctor, but also to see a mental health professional. So I wanted to be cognizant of the fact that not everyone's going to have an official diagnosis. Also, it doesn't matter if you don't, because whatever you're going through is valid. So basically, I got a lot of attention surrounding that project. Had over 100 images that were submitted by various people. It was just really, really nice to see how a community was created. A lot of the people who submitted photos, I became friends with. And so it was just a way to humanize those experiences and show people that they're not alone. And so I'm just really happy how it turned out. And then from there, I decided that I wanted to move it offline because, again, we can't assume that everyone has Wi-Fi or internet access or some sort of electronic device. And so also, in order to like find certain things, you kind of have to search for yourself. So I decided that I wanted to self-publish a book, which is another version of the photo project, but this time I work with a photographer for them to take photos of people, and then I would interview them, transcribe the interviews, and then on the upside page include a quote or something that really resonated with me or would resonate with other people. So that book is called The Color of My Mind, and it came about 2-3 years ago, I would say. And then late last year, I worked with an independent publisher, and now I have the second version of the book published. It's in both English and Spanish.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay. And how long has this BIPOC project since it started? How long has it been?
Yeah, so I started in 2014, and it's been going on in its own way until now. So say about what, 6 years? Has it been 6 years? Wow. Um,
Yeah. How time flies. I think it's a really, really cool project. I love the ideas of, having real people and have everybody, have their own photos taken, whether or not it's by themselves or by a photographer, and with the message that they want to send. Because eventually, a lot of this project and a lot of this thing that we want to try to support each other, uplift each other with, and empowering each other, it's really needs a lot of actual people, as many as possible, to in order to be really spreading out the message and really make an impact. So I totally admire and love what you do with the project. So later on, when we have a recap of this live today, I would love to get the websites and then the name of the books and links and everything, so that we will have it on IGTV and YouTube, so that everyone who wanna watch the recap will get the information, or whoever that's watching right now will be able to get the information. So you're actually the very first activist that we have featured here. We are like super happy and excited. It's really cool. So tell us a little bit about how you started to become an activist.
Sure. So I have been an activist, I would say, since high school. And the majority of the topics I was focusing on were um, body image issues, reproductive rights, violence, a bunch of different things. And so uh, it involved me, like in high school, or being part of the National Honor Society, in college, being part of like Feminists of Smith Unite. I went to college. And after college, working with women occupying Wall Street. So it's been a while. I've been doing this, and I've been doing it in different venues with different organizations. And so for me, back in 2013, I wanted to focus on mental health because I live with mental health conditions. I'm a suicide attempt survivor. And so I felt like, why aren't I talking about things that impact me every single day? And when you think about it, all of the topics that I have been working on have mental health, or at least I viewed it via the mental health lens. So I just decided that I was going to solely focus on mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, that was when I started looking up what the conversations were being had about mental health, who were industry leaders, or really out activists, advocates, and
Yeah.
started volunteering with different organizations. And so basically, just gaining all that experience, connecting with people, and just seeing what was going on there. And then also noticing that there was a gap, or there was not as much attention given to certain groups, to certain topics. And so I felt like, why didn't I fill that void or fill that gap with my personal experience, and also to amplify the experiences of others?
Cool. That sounds amazing, because there are, as you mentioned, there are so many things that we want to talk about, so many messages that are important, but yet there are still very little that have been done, and there's so much more that need to be done. And I think that it's really, really important. There are people that's like you, that is very dedicated to it, and it's really trying to make an impact there on whatever the topic is, whether or not it's the diversity of body and racial and everything. So let's talk about the LGBTQ plus, because we know that today is like the ending day of the Pride Month, but then we know that the active how to say the activism is like the pride is never ending. It's an everyday thing that we must help and support and pursue. So let's tell us a little bit about your experience working with the LGBTQ community.
Sure. So I identify as queer, and basically I've been working with the LGBTQIA plus community for quite some time. People who identify as LGBTQIA plus have been part of the photo project. They've also been part of the book version of the project. And also I've been doing a lot of speaking engagements around the country since 2015. So it's been about 5 years. And I've been doing keynotes and panels and workshops. And so a lot of times the audience includes LGBTQIA plus individuals. I've also done workshops focusing on BIPOC, LGBTQIA plus individuals, about how things are different, how mental health circumstances are more severe, the high rate of suicide attempts and completion. Um, so it's always been a topic I've been talking about. So I used to be a volunteer crisis counselor, and I also used to be a facilitator of a young adult support group. So I feel like a lot of times my
Mm-hmm.
work has been surrounding youth who have those lived experiences, and so it's really meaningful for me to be able to connect with them, be able to validate what they're going through, and finding ways that I can support them by providing resources and just listening to them. So
Yeah.
it's been really awesome to be able to work with them in that way.
Yes, that does sound awesome. And I know that we have been being more and more open to the topic, and then we are actually getting more and more attention into this topic, and then try to get better laws, better regulations, better protection for people who needs the help. So, in your point of view, being part of the community, but also being part of um, the help of the community, do you see hope? Do you think that things are getting better?
Yeah, I think that things are taking a long while. There are some aspects where things are getting better. I
Yeah.
just beyond just finishing watching the Netflix documentary Disclosure, and it's basically about the trans experience and the media representation. I do appreciate shows like Pose, where they show queer, trans, bi POC and their experiences and where they've come from. And I also appreciate that there is more media representation, but I think there needs to be even more. There needs to be
Yes.
one that is more respectful, more realistic. Not every media representation should involve Black trans women being killed. Like,
Yeah.
definitely that's something that happens. But I think that when it comes to people of color in general and the LGBTQIA plus community, it's important to have varied representation, because
Yeah.
we are complex individuals. We are human. We do different
Yes.
types of things, and so it's important to show that there is bad, but there's also a bit of good. So I think that there are some ways that we are moving forward, but there is still a huge amount of Black trans women being murdered every single day.
Yes.
So it's moving slower than I would like. And I want there to be changes when it comes to how people are being treated, how they're being murdered. So there's a lot more that we have to go. But unfortunately, when it comes to things like this, it takes longer than it should, because it is about changing policies, changing systems, changing people's minds, just changing
Yeah.
a lot of things. So it is going to take some time. But I do appreciate what we've, made strides with so far.
Yes, I agree. I agree. There is definitely a long way to go still, and then it is really hard to also start the conversation. But then again, if the conversation is tough, that means it is a conversation is important and really worth to have. And then a lot of time people might not be understanding why are we so loud about how Black trans life matters, how LGBTQ plus rights matters. I think it's loud because it's something that really really need to be heard, and there are so little change that has been made, and that's the reason why people are being loud. I often sadly see a lot of comments on social media. People are saying that, oh, they're demanding so much. I don't think it's a lot to demand. A lot oftentimes this is like a basic human right that most of everybody is having. And then what I think the LGBTQ plus and then people of color want is really just something equal, not asking for a lot higher or anything more. We're just asking for something that is the same level. So I think it's definitely, this is something that everybody really needs to understand. in order to be able to have everybody to help. So another thing is, so for the community, the LGBTQ plus community, what kinds of resource that's available that you would recommend? Like, how do they seek help? Because we know that oftentimes it's hard for them to ask for help. And what kind of resources that you would like to share with everybody?
Sure. But just quickly before I answer that, I definitely want to speak to what you. I do think that there are a lot of misconceptions. I mean, there is a inequality and equity. You know, equality is where people want to be treated the same, but it isn't factoring in the fact that there are a lot of policies and systems that keep people down. And so it's about equality, but more so on equity. There's an image that shows people behind then they can only see as much as they can. But if the boxes are stacked where each person can see, regardless of the height, it's just keeping in mind that there are systems that are keeping them from gaining that access. And so just keeping in mind how equity is really, really important. But going back to the resources that you were referring to, there are a bunch of different resources. The Trevor Project, an amazing organization. They have text, chat on the computer, phone lines. Like basically you can get support in various ways. There's also Glisten, where they have what they call GSAs, which originally is Alliance, but I've also been hearing from other organizations that now it's Gender and Sexualities Alliance to be more inclusive. So there's also this new platform that I've heard about called Violet, which is queer competent healthcare, specifically for therapy. And there's also the National Queer and Trans People of Color Network, where people can find, it's a directory, and people can find queer, trans, bi POC who they can see for therapy, because there is a lot of disparities when it comes to that. You do want a therapist who is culturally competent, queer competent, or compassionate, or fluent, and so it just makes the experience a lot better. And those are just a few of the resources that I have, but I definitely have others. There's the Trans Lifeline.
Yes.
There's the Gay and Lesbian, Bisexual, and Transgender National Hotline. So I just wanted to make sure I covered all of those. Also the LGBTQ National Youth Talk Line. So there are a bunch of resources. I mean, I feel like there can always be more, but those are some of the resources that I've learned about, and
cool.
Really take advantage of.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And so us, you know, people like a business or individuals that are not in the community, what do you think that they can do, you know, apart from, you know, doing donations? Generally, how do you think they could help? A lot of them doesn't know anybody like that's in the LGBTQ plus community in their life in general or in their workplace. But if they want to learn more and they want to help, you know, what kind of resource or what can they do?
Yeah, so yeah, beyond donations, I think it let's say for businesses, it's about media representation. And so if you are doing ads or doing anything when it comes to representing individuals, it's important to include queer, trans, all types of individuals, just so that people can see people like them. That's very much behind what my project has been doing. And so also just being aware of that, and this is just for businesses and individuals, being respectful of people's pronouns. One thing to note is that it's no longer preferred pronouns, because there's this idea that it's a pronoun you prefer to use rather than how you identify. So definitely always maybe starting every meeting with people introducing themselves with their gender pronouns. Also along the lines of the donations, like if you have proceeds or do fundraising or anything like that. And then being allies to queer and trans, bi POC, or you can call them co-conspirators or accomplices. Really being an ally is a verb, not a noun. So we can't just say I'm an ally, but then not do anything about that. So just being supportive, amplifying other people's voices, also educating ourselves. It shouldn't the onus shouldn't be on LGBTQIA plus community to educate people. It's really about if there is this really genuine vested interest in being supportive and knowing more about it.
Mm-hmm.
We can always Google, we can always search for ways to educate ourselves.
Yes, yes, I totally agree. And then the last topic is something I think is really, really important. Is something that I've been doing research for as well. Is that LGBTQ plus parenting. So when the parents find out their child or children is in the community. I know that you don't have children yourself, so am I. But then I think it is something that worth to find out and do the research and spread the words from, since whoever that's in the community, family support is such an important thing, because you don't have choice with your family. You're born to be in this family, so they're so close to you. They have so much impact on you since when you were little. So family support is such an important thing. But for a lot of parents, they might not understand, or they're trying to understand, or even even if they do, they don't know what to do. So that is something that I would love to get your thoughts and your opinions on. What kind of suggestions that you will give them?
Yeah, I mean, overall, it's about expressing your love and support of them, and not in spite of their gender identity or sexuality, but because of that. Coming out is a very life-changing, important experience. It's not always easy for kids, because if you haven't talked about it before or haven't seen your family's reactions to topics like these, it's hard to even know how they would react. So I think that it's important for parents to express their love and support, that they're there for you, that you love them, because I think that that's really like the basis of what a good relationship could be between a parent and their LGBTQIA plus child. I also think it's about like encouraging conversation, talking to the child or their child about what going through, asking them like, what are your pronouns, how do you identify, also educating yourself on these topics. Also, if a lot of times kids and teens may not be very open about what they're going through, because again, just because there has been a good experience coming out doesn't, you're just so unsure about how people are going to feel that. So thing, media, like positive media representation, as a way to start the conversation, so it's not like, okay, tell me all about what you're going through, but more generic and organic. Organic is the word I'm trying to use. And then also trying to see what their is like with school, because the majority of their time are going to be in school. Is there a gender and sexualities alliance club at their school? So trying to understand all aspects of their experience, checking into them, educating yourself, and just starting the conversation. The more conversation, the more we learn, the more comfortable we are about talking. So those are just some ideas that I have for parents. Like you mentioned, I'm not a parent, and so I'm not in their shoes. And if I were a parent, I would be more than happy to support them and make them like whoever they are. I'm 100% behind them. But yeah, that is a unique situation to be in as a parent. So it's all about just being a parent in general is a lot of work, I hear. So just continuing to work and making sure that your child feels loved and supported. That's basically it.
Yes, I totally agree. And then the main point of this question is really one, what all the parents out there that's looking for help and looking for support can hear from somebody that been actively in the community or helping the community. And I think this is really important to know that. And with all the resources that you also have provided earlier for the LGBTQIA community, do you think these are the resources that the parents could go seek help from as well?
Yeah, I think that those are good resources. I would say I'd look into things that are more family oriented. So definitely doing your research, like people's experiences about being a parent with LGBTQI plus child. So these are some good ones, but I feel like there are others that are more family oriented and just connecting. Like there's probably Facebook groups or other groups online where there are people in your similar situation where you can kind of talk it out with people if you're struggling and don't know how best to approach the situation. So I was looking into ones that might be more family oriented, but the ones that I've shared so far are a great start because there are a lot of resources via these organizations that can direct you, put you in the right direction.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We're running out of time, but I'm really enjoy, the conversation we have today. I think it's such an important message to spread out. And later on, we will do a recap. We will, upload this video on, YouTube and, our social media platform. And then I would love to get, a list of links and names of, the second book of the BIPOC project that you're working on, and then the websites and everything, so that we can make sure all the resources are out there. Whoever that needs it, they know where to go. And thank you so much, Dior. Thank you again to have this conversation with us. And we'll talk again soon. We are really hoping we can work again together, maybe in person, maybe after all of this the lockdown is after the pandemic. Maybe we'll go back to where we can actually meet in person and do events, and then we can, spread better words and more to more people,
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so amazing to chat with you. Thank you for everything that you do. And yeah, I can't wait to work with you again.
Yeah, thank you for everything you do as an activist. It's amazing. It's amazing. Thank you so much.
All right, take care.